Hip flexion with external resist. We're going to tie a band around the ankle, pulling inward, forcing that external resistance. Make sure that that shin stays vertical the entire time as we go into hip flexion. Kettlebell resisted dorsiflexion. Very simple exercise, just flex your shin as your foot comes up and down, and always make sure that you're forcing your quadriceps to be contracted. And in the event that you don't have a kettlebell, simply use a band. Just make sure that your foot and the band are in the exact same line of force. Split stance externally resisted calf raises. Make sure that the band is always above the knee and pulling inward at a 90-degree angle as you perform these calf raises. Copenhagen eccentric drops. Make sure that you go as low as you can control without causing any pain. If this exercise hurts your wrist, simply post on your forearm instead of your hands. Hip flexion isos with leg extensions. Make sure that you hold your knee in place as you perform all these leg extensions. Reverse hypers double leg. In the event that you don't have a reverse hypers machine, simply grab a box and make sure that your trunk stays in the same position the entire time. Ensure that your heels are pointing outwards and your toes are pointing in, and that your glutes are contracted the entire range. Calf raise matrix. We're going to do calf raises with the toes inward, neutral, and pointing outwards. Alternating dumbbell press with iso holds at the bottom. As one dumbbell does its full rep, the other one is going to hold an isometric contraction at the bottom. Make sure that the dumbbell is not resting on your chest as the opposite dumbbell does its rep. Reverse curls. If you don't have a bar, you can use dumbbells. Just make sure that your hands stay facing down the entire time. External rotations at 90 degrees. Make sure that your elbows stay in place and they're not swinging forward and back or up and down as you perform every single rep. The best way to figure out where your range is to put it at 90 degrees and get a couple reps, squeeze your scap down, and then get some reps from there. At that height, we can even take the elbow forward, we can take it all the way back, we can leave it neutral. Hell, we can even take it all the way to the front, so long as you're not bringing your elbow up higher than your scapula permits you. Single arm triceps press. We're simply going to do a triceps pull down with one arm. If you have a cable, great, and if you don't have a cable, just switch to a band. High rows. We are going to row from a high line of force. You can use a band, cables, machines, whatever you'd like. Just make sure that we are holding our isometric contraction at full range by squeezing our scap and pausing completely. Reverse band flies. The band is going to be from a high line of force, and just make sure that your elbows are always locked and that your scap is always leading the contractions. Tori awesome external rotations. Even though I'm sure you've probably seen it in other places, this is probably one of my most trademark exercises. Make sure that your elbows are staying in the exact same position as you perform the external rotations. And let's do this thumbs up, thumbs in, and thumbs out. Single leg step downs with an inverted kettlebell. Do not worry if you cannot reach the ground on this one on every single rep. Just make sure you stay under control and that your glutes are always contracting and that your shins are always vertical. Calf raises toes out. As simple as it sounds, just make sure that you come up as high as you can while performing these plantar flexions. Calf raises with hip flexion iso and external resist. Tie a band resisting inward around the ankle at 90 degrees. While performing your calf raises, make sure that you contract your quads and your glutes. Banded ankle inversion and eversion. We're going to grab a band tied around the top of the foot and around the opposite side of the bench. From there, we're going to roll our ankle inward and outward. This one is inversion. This one is eversion. Same thing, same concept, tied around the opposite side of the bench and rotate outwards. Banded ankle dorsiflexion. Place the band on the top of the foot and make sure that the foot is in the same line of force as the band. From there, simply flex your shin and get some reps. Just make sure you challenge your resistance. Iso abduction with adduction reps. As you can see here, Amani holds his leg at the top with his toes down as he gets some adduction reps from his bottom leg. Overhead Y wall squats. Go up against the wall, place all 10 toes against the wall facing in the same direction, and squat as low as you can control. It does not matter if you cannot perform a full squat. Just control your range. From there, we're going to pull the band apart while the palms face each other. You might feel it in your shoulders, but you will definitely feel it in your lower back. Supine hip flexion with external resist. We're going to tie a band around your outer leg, around the ankle, pulling inwards. As you perform these reps, your foot's going to want to rotate inward, causing you to go into external femoral rotation. Do not let that happen. Make sure that your shins and your spine are in the same alignment. Prophet press with counter row. As one hand goes up, the other one's going to come down into a row. Make sure that you are not wobbling side to side and that you control the range the entire time. Forearm pulse series. Lift your feet off the ground. That way we can load the hands a little bit more and do what I can only describe as a calf raise with your wrist. Hammer curls. Just make sure that your elbows are not swinging forward and back as you're doing these reps. Banded skull crushers. If you don't have bands, you can utilize weights or some type of bar. Make sure that your elbows stay in place and that the hands go up towards the ceiling and down up above your head. Supine banded external rotations. We're going to lie on the ground facing upwards. We're going to tie the bands up high and we're going to externally rotate until the back of the hands touch the ground. Try to keep those elbows from flying off. Pin them hard against the ground. Split stance overhead Ys. Try to keep your elbow locked the entire range and that you're always leading with the thumb. That's going to cause you to always point behind your body at the top and at the bottom. Face pulls with triceps press. We're going to pull that band from a high line of force, rowing back with our elbows, and then from there we're going to pull that band apart completely. Then we're going to bring it back in and back up.